Greetings everyone. Today I want to start off by reading a few quotes from this amazing interview from 2003. In it, three well-known Japanese super players discuss playing Danmaku games or bullet hell games. I'll have a link to the full interview in the description, but my favorite part is where they talk about dodging without dodging. The first quote is from a player named Nal, N-A-L, and Nal says, "As much as possible, you should not be dodging bullets. These are bullet dodging games, but you should avoid dodging as much as you can." The second quote comes from Clover Tack, who you may know for creating Crimson Clover, an amazing shmup. Now, Tack says, "Good players don't do a lot of dodging. It might look like they are though. There's been times when I've seen someone doing some amazing dodges, and from my perspective I think, this person isn't very good." I absolutely love these quotes, they crack me up every time, but jokes aside, they're actually correct, because at a basic level, playing Danmaku games is not about doing these like wild lightning fast dodges all the time, because that's just not feasible in a full run. Instead, what you want to do is create a kind of a safe path or route through the game that allows you to do the minimum amount of dodging possible. Now, that's still a lot, but the point is you shouldn't be like flying wildly around the screen all the time, and you actually don't need to have like great reflexes to play these games. You want to create a plan and then execute that plan. Now, of course, that's easier said than done, and it requires different skills that we get into in upcoming videos, but the number one most fundamental thing is movement. That's not something that can be taught in a single video, but I'll try to introduce a couple of helpful concepts that you can experiment with and keep in mind when you're playing. First of all, don't dodge with your ship, dodge with your hitbox. Now, you may already know this, but for the enemies to be able to damage you, they need to hit this tiny area in the middle of your ship, not the actual ship itself. In some games you have this like kind of shining pearl that indicates where the hitbox is. But with some earlier games like Dodonpachi, you don't get that, but you can just Google Dodonpachi hitbox and you'll see where it is. Once you've gotten the hang of your hitbox, start thinking about micro versus macro dodging. Now, micro dodging is when there is no way to avoid a bullet pattern. Like, let's say there's a boss that just fills the whole screen with bullets, and the only way through is to kind of squeeze through these tiny empty spaces between the bullets. If you're facing that kind of situation, what you want to do is to slow down. Now, if you're playing something like a cave game, they usually have two firing modes. You have the rapid shot that makes your ship go fast, and there's the concentrated laser type shot, which slows you down. So naturally, you want to use the laser shot, especially because it usually does more damage. Also, you want to learn to do something called tap dodging. Now, tap dodging is when you very lightly tap one directional input, like left, 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 or right, 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 right. Again, that slows you down, but often you can also get into the flow of the bullet patterns in this way. It's kind of hard to describe, but I'll put a video of me playing Dodonpachi Side-Eye Hojo, and in level 5 there's this mid-boss which I first thought was really hard, but then I just figured out I could just like tap dodge through the pattern without even actually looking at the bullets, because I was like moving with the flow of the pattern. Sometimes you can avoid doing these micro dodges, because in Danmaku games they're usually the static or fixed patterns, and those patterns happen irresponsible of what you're doing in the game. And then there's aimed patterns, and the patterns are aimed at your position on the screen. So let's say you're staying on the left side of the screen, an enemy appears from the top and shoots this huge glob of bullets at you. You don't necessarily have to go through that pattern. You can just fly around to the right side and avoid the pattern altogether, and that's what's called macro dodging. I feel like a common misconception about bullet hell games is that they require very quick reaction times, that you kind of see what's happening on the screen and you react immediately. Actually, what you want to be doing is controlling the game, controlling the patterns that it gives you, and a very useful technique here is called bullet streaming or bullet herding. This is a kind of a macro dodge that is very useful, but kind of hard to put into words. But like in Dodonpachi level 5, there's this famous section where you want to keep doing this kind of a C or U kind of motion, where you're on one side of the screen, You wait for the enemies to start shooting at your position, then you move out at this controlled speed and move to the other side of the screen. Then the enemies start shooting at you there, and again you move out to a safer place on the other side of the screen. You can also combine tap dodging with this, like in this section of side-eye audio, where you want to move as slowly as possible because there's a huge deluge of small enemies coming at you and shooting at you. So you want to kind of create this safe space for yourself as you move across the screen. So those are my main tips for movement, and just to recap, number 1, think about micro versus macro dodging. Number 2, practice tap dodging, it is super useful. And number 3, herd the bullets to where you want them to be. So the next time you're playing a bullet hell game and there's a section that seems to require just mind-boggling dodging ability and flailing around the screen like mad, just take a step back and think about maybe there's a better way to move through that section, and just keep in mind the advice from ancient Japanese super players and dodge without dodging. If that sounds zen, that's because it is, and that's what makes them Aku cool. Thanks for watching.